Hello students, welcome back to my channel. Now today I'm going to start with a new video which is the part 2 of analytical chemistry. Previously I have made a video on analytical chemistry which was the part 1 of this particular lesson, and today I'm starting with the second part of this particular lesson. This topic is exclusively for class 10 Icse students who will be appearing in the upcoming board exams. So without wasting time, let's get started with the video. So in this video, at first, I will be talking about the action of alkalis on certain metals. What are those metals that I will be discussing? First of all, the alkalis will be NaOH and KOH, that is sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide. So all the metals which I will be talking about, all those metals will be treated with these two alkalis, that is NaOH, sodium hydroxide, and potassium hydroxide, KOH. So first one is zinc. Okay, first metal will be zinc. So in zinc, when zinc is treated with NaOH, that is sodium hydroxide, this particular alkali, and this sodium hydroxide will be hot and concentrated. This is the condition. This caustic alkali, sodium hydroxide, will be hot and concentrated. When zinc is treated with NaOH, which is hot and concentrated, then what will happen? I'm writing the balance reaction here. Then it will form a salt, Na2ZnO2 and hydrogen. Now this Na2ZnO2, the name of this salt is sodium zincate. Sodium zincate. So when zinc reacts with hot concentrated sodium hydroxide, then it forms a salt which is known as sodium zincate, Na2ZnO2 and hydrogen. You know already that whenever a metal reacts with an alkali, okay, whenever a metal reacts with hot concentrated alkali, then it forms or it liberates hydrogen. This is one property. Okay. Now next we will see when zinc will react with potassium hydroxide. Okay, again the same condition, hot and concentrated, then it will form another salt, the corresponding salt, that is K2ZnO2 and hydrogen. Okay, K2ZnO2, this is what? Potassium zincate. The name of this salt is potassium zincate. So this is all about the metal when the zinc, okay, when the zinc metal reacts with hot concentrated NaOH and KOH, then in both the cases it liberates hydrogen and the corresponding salt. In case of sodium hydroxide, it liberates sodium zincate, and in case of potassium hydroxide, it liberates potassium zincate. Now the next metal is lead. See, in case of lead, when lead reacts with sodium hydroxide, again the condition is same, hot concentrated. I'm not repeating it again and again. So when it reacts with sodium hydroxide, hot concentrated sodium hydroxide, then it produces what? The corresponding salt, Na2PbO2 and hydrogen. This Na2PbO2 is sodium plumbite. The corresponding salt is sodium plumbite. And when this lead reacts with KOH, that is hot concentrated potassium hydroxide, then it forms K2PbO2, the corresponding salt, and hydrogen. This corresponding salt is potassium plumbite. So basically here we have seen that when potassium reacts with sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide, both hot and concentrated, then forms the corresponding salt and again they liberate hydrogen. In case of sodium hydroxide, it forms sodium plumbite, and in case of potassium hydroxide, it forms potassium plumbite. Next metal is aluminium. Now, this aluminium, when this aluminium reacts with sodium hydroxide, then in case of aluminium, there is a special case. Here we have to add water. Here we have to add water along with the alkali. So, aluminium, NaOH and water, it will give to NaAlO2. This is the corresponding salt, and obviously it will liberate hydrogen. And this same aluminium, when it reacts with KOH, again this will be mixed with water and it will form the corresponding salt KaLO2 and obviously the hydrogen. Now, in the first case, when aluminium reacts with sodium hydroxide along with water, it forms sodium aluminate. This is sodium aluminate. And when this aluminium reacts with potassium hydroxide along with water, then it forms potassium aluminate. So basically, in all the cases where the alkalis react with certain metals, in case of zinc, lead and aluminium, in all the cases they form the corresponding salt and they liberate hydrogen. This is the basic properties in all these three cases. Now we will move to the action of alkalis on oxides and hydroxides of certain metals. In this case, we will consider all these three metals, zinc, lead and aluminium. And we will see the reaction of these alkalis, sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide on these metals, but that too on oxides and hydroxides of these metals. First is zinc. So first we will take the example of zinc oxide. Now zinc oxide, when it reacts with NaOH, sodium hydroxide, then it forms sodium zincate, the corresponding salt, and forms water. So in this case, whenever sodium hydroxide is reacting with the oxide of that particular metal, then it forms water. Then it is forming water whenever it is reacting with oxide. Because in the previous case, we have seen that whenever the metal is reacting with the alkali, it is forming hydrogen or it is liberating hydrogen. But whenever the zinc oxide is reacting with sodium hydroxide, it is forming water. And when zinc hydroxide reacts with sodium hydroxide, then it again forms sodium zincate and water. So the products are same. Again, it is forming water. In both the cases, zinc oxide and zinc hydroxide, when reacts with sodium hydroxide, they both are forming water as a product and the same salt, sodium zincate. But the balancing is different. So when the metal is reacting with sodium hydroxide, it is liberating hydrogen. But whenever there is oxide or hydroxide of that same metal and reacting with sodium hydroxide, similarly with hot concentrated alkali, then it is producing water. Now the next is lead. In case of lead, when lead oxide is reacting with sodium hydroxide, okay, I'm writing balance equations, then it is forming sodium plumbite, Na2PbO2 and water, just like zinc oxide. And when lead hydroxide is reacting with sodium hydroxide, okay, then it is forming the same salt, sodium plumbite, only the balancing is different. In both the cases, lead oxide and lead hydroxide, when it reacts with hot and concentrated sodium hydroxide, the products are same, sodium plumbite and water, but only the balancing is different. Next is aluminium. See, In case of aluminium, aluminium oxide is Al2O3, and when it reacts with sodium hydroxide, then it is forming sodium aluminate and water. Sodium aluminate and water. Okay, and when aluminium hydroxide is reacting with sodium hydroxide, hot concentrated sodium hydroxide, then again it is forming sodium aluminate and water. Only the difference is in case of balancing. So in all the three cases, lead, zinc and aluminium, in case of oxides and hydroxides, when they react with hot concentrated sodium hydroxide, they form the corresponding salt and water. And when this same aluminium oxide reacts with another hot concentrated alkali, that is potassium hydroxide, then again it forms the corresponding salt, that is potassium aluminate and water. And when aluminium hydroxide reacts with potassium hydroxide, then hot concentrated alkali, then it forms again the same salt, corresponding salt, only the difference lies in the balancing of water. So in all these cases, we have found that whenever a metal is reacting with hot concentrated alkali, then it is liberating hydrogen along with the corresponding salt. And whenever the oxides and hydroxides of the same metal are reacting with the hot concentrated alkali like KOH and NaOH, sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide, they are liberating, or they are producing what? The corresponding salt, and this time they are producing water instead of hydrogen. And in case of oxide and hydroxide, the products are same, only the balancing is different. In both the cases, the corresponding salt and water are formed. Okay, so I think this particular topic is absolutely clear. With this, I have completed, or I am completing this particular topic, analytical chemistry. So if you think my videos are informative and they are helpful, then please like my videos. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, then please click the subscribe button and don't forget to click the bell icon for getting the notifications. So thank you for watching the video and stay tuned to my channel for more such videos.